Look, I'm not talking about stoning motherfuckers or like outcasting them from society or whatever. I'm talking about don't sweat it, man. Just like move on. Just block them if you gotta. Like, just don't waste your time. Don't let them in. The other part about that is the way you find your community, right? People like us do things like this. Shun the non-believers is this part that's really like, I'm still sort of growing and learning what that means for me. But here's the thing. It's about enrollment. Back in the day, there was this app called MySpace. And I think a lot of musicians or like creatives definitely had this time, and people still do this. I still see young artists do this a lot where I would just like spam links, right? I still do it to like friends I know appreciate it. But it's not very much, and it's more intentional. It's like, hey, I know you like this, buddy. Check out a thing I did. But I would just try to like catch people, and in marketing, especially like creative marketing, it's so weird that people still think that this works. It fucking doesn't. It just damages your brand when you just go try to interrupt what people are doing and say, hey, look at the thing I did. Look at this. Check this out. Hey, look, I made a thing. Hey, look, I made a thing. Please stop what the fuck you're doing and look at the fucking thing. Hey, look, I made a thing. Hey, look, I made a thing. Please stop what the fuck you're doing and look at the fucking thing. Look, we as a society have been talking about consent a whole bunch, and I love us for that. I love that for us. Consent has a close cousin, and she's called enrollment. In social media and the stuff, enrollment usually looks something like a follow, although I feel like followers are less and less relevant. I think that with like the algorithm and how things are going, look, I made a thing is becoming popular because disruption is effective for getting some money out of marketing, but it's ultimately social media shooting itself in the foot. I don't want you to shoot yourself in the foot. I want you to show up and give people an opportunity to enroll in what the fuck you're doing. Look, this week, I'm going to be spending a lot of time just letting people know that this podcast exists, and there's a line, right? And so I'll be figuring out how to go about that, especially when it comes to like PMs to buddies and shit. So what you really want is, hey, when's the next thing coming? Eventually, this podcast, What the Helpish, will expand from these 20-minute episodes. I mean, maybe they might be more or less, but eventually this will include all the things I make. So if you want to, hey, look, I made a thing, it's all going to be here. This idea started because I make too many things. And my friend was like, I can't keep up with all the things. I wish there was just one place. I wish you just like release it all in one thing each week. And sometimes it was a little bit of stuff. Sometimes it was a lot of stuff. But for someone who makes shit every day, it's hard for her to keep up. And podcasts feel like the last vestige of like algorithm free enrollment. I consume a lot of podcasts, and I do it two ways. One, it's just absolute enrollment where I subscribe to somebody and I get a little ding ding every week when a new episode drops. That is, in my opinion, the best way to do long form content, is to get that little ding ding. Remember RSS feeds? They still kind of exist, but big corporations are trying to take them away from you, like they've taken away everything, including creativity. Because oh boy, this is a long song that has been sung for so many centuries. Those in power, they don't like it when you're creative on your own terms. They don't like make something terrible. Make something terrible is real bad for business. When wax cylinders and like recording stuff and like gramophones and that sort of thing came out, you could record on them. Or there was like professional studios, there's this whole mom and pop industry. And most of the consumption of early recordings were home recordings. And then a bunch of car dealerships got together and they made this thing called the record industry. And they were like, hey, guys that make the things that play the records, can you stop letting people record their own shit, please? And can we just model this after like what they did in Europe? In Europe, they started this whole sheet music industry. And they're like, the only music that matters is music that's written down. And we'll put all these barriers so that you have to have like a lot of free time and a lot of connections and wealth in order to participate in this industry. Because, when we let those poor folk, make art and distribute it, it always kind of fucks with us a little bit. So can we not do that? And then that's what happened. In fact, every time there's some revolution in distributing creativity and information, there's always usually these kind of rich white guys that are like, yeah, let's try to not do that. Okay. Cause I like how I'm living. I just don't want a repeat of that one time when the printing press came out and then like a whole bunch of rich white people lost their heads and shit. That was weird. Perfectionists don't like it when creative communication becomes democratized. They tend to lose their heads when we come together past all the lies. Perfectionists don't like it when creative communication becomes democratized. They tend to lose their heads when we come together past all the lies.